Welcome back, y'all.
What up, foo? Kind of like the long, drawn-out ones. I feel like that's maybe more my signature.
Oh, it's like a gangster. What's that jingle? That's your gangster jingle.
Yeah, like slightly operatic.
I like it.
You know, I was a theater kid, so
that makes sense. It tracks.
That tracks for me. Yeah, great.
I went back to my dance days. You know, like the whole dance moms movement is from Texas, so it's very south of me.
Oh yeah.
And then you went back to your roots with theater kid.
Jazz hands. I'll do that next time.
That would be great. Then people would have a reason to actually watch us versus just listen. It's exactly what people are. If
you're not watching these on YouTube, you're really missing out on a lot of interesting theatrics behind the scenes.
And if you pause it at any point, you can get a fucked up face from Christine Hernandez, because it always happens.
Invariably messed up. There's no point in time where the video stops and your face looks cool.
People are going to be like, that is so mean. No, it's just honest. It's just the truth.
Our producer manages to get them somehow. He finds the still shots. It has to take him hours.
No, he's probably just cropping it. He's moving my eyeball.
Yeah, it's probably just totally fabricated.
He's literally this is weird. That's what too much Botox says. I'm just kidding.
You heard it here first.
Well, on that note,
I know.
Well, that's our whole culture. So I got a question.
Great.
And I love this question because today we're talking about default culture versus design culture. Which one are you building? So, in spirit of our topic, if we're not intentional, you and I, what is the culture we would build by default?
Probably one of yeah.
That's so good. I already know the answer.
Yeah, I think it would be one of a speed and an intensity that is not sustainable.
I'm like, what? Maybe my question is what movie? What matches our default? Our default culture.
What's that movie? It was It's Older. It's going to date me, but from the 90s was Sandra Bullock. Was it Speed?
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Speed.
That's what.
Blow or not Blow. Was it Pilot or?
I don't know. Was it Pilot one?
Yeah, it was Denzel Wise. Such a raunchy movie. If you have children in the house, do not watch this movie. But it was with Denzel Washington, I'm pretty sure, and he's a pilot, and he's just the opening scene is we don't do cocaine, just for the record before I say this, but the opening scene is he doesn't sleep all night. He's in bed with the chick doing cocaine, and then gets on the flight and just balls to wall. Or that one with
I'm so bad at people's names.
I know this is not a gift, especially actors. I'm I don't know.
Yeah.
You're a person. Goodness gracious. He's so famous.
You got to give me anything.
It'll come to me. He changes changes who he is a million times. He's in a lot of movies. Now everyone is guessing. They're who is it? Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, great. A movie star that's in a lot of movies. Yeah. Well played. Way to really direct us.
my default
that would be
culture.
your culture. Is just a lot of fucking questions that no one knows the answers to.
It'd be super unclear. People are what are we doing?
It'd just be
there's a big vision. Yeah. Nobody knows what
just
it is.
Dropping cryptic messages in Slack that no one with no context. That would be yours.
Oh my god, you're good. Here's in Becca's comment. That would totally be mine. More information, Christine. I just did that.
Any context. He did that 3 times a day. People on our team were like, what? And I had to come in and be like, this is what she's talking about. And they're like, thanks. That's super helpful with any information.
No, it was so bad. I just did a screenshot while I was driving and sent it to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be my default culture.
Yeah. Last night, like, add 45-minute call. Like, what? Like, if I didn't know what was going on, like, no, everyone would be in the dark.
In my head, it was so clear. I was like,
yeah, that's yours. That's great.
Oh man, it's so good. No, I literally was like, I got all the details. So you would just be like driving like full speed ahead, and I would be unclear.
You'd be like peppering us with like unclear directions of like how to get to where we're going.
I literally can't. Oh my god.
You'd be like, up ahead, there's a move. They'd be like, left or right. You'd be like, just make a move. You know what
Make
to do.
the move, baby. Oh my god. That's so funny.
That's
I hope you can laugh this hard thinking about it. Ask your team that default culture. What would be your default culture? And then what's the movie that would match?
Mm-hmm. I like the movie add-on. That's good.
That's, yeah. Mine would be like Clueless meets Speed.
Speed. Yeah.
So great.
That's great.
All of our jokes aside, this is a super serious topic, and it's one that we've spent a lot of time on. Thank God for our intentionality, because our team would be a hot mess. So culture, let's break this down real quick. So culture is what happens when you're not in the room. So it is, if you're sitting in your office and you're like, I don't have a culture, I haven't done that yet. Totally okay. That's why we're doing this topic. And it's really important to not just let it go by default, because then what's happening when you're not in the room gets a little messy. And
you have a culture even if you're not actively working on it. Like the avoidance or lack of attention to a culture doesn't absolve your organization of having a culture. It just means that you're not intentional about it.
Yeah. There's no pause on impact, there's no pause on culture.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you have one person or 600 people, you have a culture.
Mm-hmm.
You have a culture in your family. You have a culture in your friend group. There is a culture, and people either do align with it or they don't align with it. And it makes everything else happen. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the problem with default culture. If you haven't got it already, based on our default.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So when we just drive and we're not intentional, what happens is culture happens and you don't actually outline any expectations. So it's just you're running at nothing, but you're creating something. Mm-hmm. And nobody is able to either opt in or out. Like, if you don't know how to define your culture and you're not intentionally building that and designing that culture, you're running at it and people are feeling it. People are having an experience with it, but they don't have any understanding that it exists because there's no language. Default culture also creates inconsistent standards, unclear norms, aka Christine, and reactive decision making. So if we don't have an outlined culture and we're not designing it intentionally, what you will have is a lot of people who are moving in a lot of different ways. And a lot of times it's not the end result that changes. So your goals might stay the same, but what happens is how we get there looks really different. So it's also really challenging to keep people accountable and have follow up and follow through, because there's just not a way. And I think the best version, or the thing, maybe it's like the thing that frustrates me the most, is when you go into somewhere and they're like, we're in a company and they're like, this is not how we do it. And you're like, okay, great information. Well, like, what is the right way? Mm-hmm. And people are just following SOPs, but you can tell they're not genuine about it. Like, I think it's Starbucks right now who's like, how's your day? what do you have going on today? I'm like, don't talk to me. This is so, like, you can just tell that they were told, you need to ask people about their day. That is not culture. That's process. And when you have a strong culture, you would hire people who do small talk well. You would have a culture where you're doing that and it would be authentic and organic, not you need to ask people how their day is. Because then it's just weird and the lady doesn't actually give a shit. So it's very disingenuous. So think about that when you think about somebody's culture. And I think Chick-fil-A does this well. They really mean it when they're like, my pleasure. You get that one kid once in a while and he's like, my pleasure. Like, and you're just like,
he's like a grumpy emo kid.
Yeah, but they literally, they do this well because it's a part of their culture and they bake it in and they hire for it. I know my kid's been through that hiring process and it's rigorous. I can't talk.
Don't try it again. You're going to mess it up.
Say it.
Rigorous.
Oh, rigorous. And intense. That Chick-fil-A, it's a whole intense process. So these are the things that are just, they are how you respond, how you act when you're not in the room. And last one, culture isn't about what you say, it's about what you tolerate. And this one is probably the most important on the back end, because if you tolerate it, you're creating a culture. So if people aren't showing up on time, you're like, it's fine. 5th time, it's fine. 10th time, it's fine. You're not actually keeping people accountable. Everyone else is watching. So whether you actually want to create that type of culture, if you're tolerating people to just show up in a half-baked way, it's not going to change. You're creating the culture. You're creating those standards. So let's talk a little bit about, that's the problem. If you have a default culture, what does it look like for us to design a culture? What does that look like, Taylor?
Yeah, there's a few ways, or there's lots of ways to get at this. I want to talk about 3 specifically that people can move on to actually start to create an intentional culture. Because I mean, you nailed it. It's the tolerate piece. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is for anybody listening, it was like, I don't have a culture. I don't know what my culture is. Well, then that by default, you have a culture of tolerating, right? Because you haven't, and I'm not saying that people have done this intentionally or with like malice of forethought, but if you haven't done it, then your culture is one of just tolerating whatever happens to your organization, to your people. So the 3 things that we can do, 3 areas that we can focus on. The first one's language. I think this is probably the most impactful one. You know, how we communicate and the shared language that we create and then have inside of our organizations, I think is the most powerful tool and the one that probably impacts us the most. Right. So, I mean, just pick any example, right? Like how